actually stands for Drag Story Hour.
No, I ain't heard that one. That's a new one.
So what happens is there's actually a movement going around the country that pushes Drag Story Hour. And so what happens is the guy I got the post from, the reason he wrote it, because he, I guess, was aware of this term, but didn't take it serious. And he said in his post, I didn't take it serious until this happened near him. He's somewhere in the Northeast or whatever. And what it is there's a movement to have stories told to elementary kid students by people dressed in drag. This is a full out.
Yeah, I've heard that. I didn't know there was an acronym for it. Yeah, I've heard that one. Yeah.
So I wasn't familiar with it. So I was just talking about how far we can go with the word equality, because a couple of weeks ago we did a show saying because of the lack of public discourse is the reason that equality can now turn into unfairness. I'm just trying to show how it's all related. And so pushing for equality can go too far if we're not able to have, I consider, just smart dialogue about, does this make sense? What I talked about on the show a couple of weeks ago was, you probably have heard of it, where the transgender woman got the people pregnant in the prison. I talked about that on the show a couple of weeks ago. And so I just feel like the DSH ends up being a continuation of echo chambers yelling people down in the name of equality, but it's just lack of common sense discourse to kind of say, hey, it's not necessary to have somebody in drag telling these kids stories. And we've had that conversation on the show before, but I just wanted to highlight one, had people heard about it, and how I think it is a continuance of pushing equality in a very ineffective way, in my opinion, because of the lack of civil discourse that just simply says, this is not necessary, because what is the point for elementary kids? Your thoughts, but that's how I feel about it.
I'm okay with it. I'm all for equality. I'm probably one of those people that's extreme. I don't see how it hurts. If you can show me how it hurts, then I might switch my opinion. But I don't think it hurts the children. I don't think it hurts anybody. I think in a society where we don't have enough people reading in the first place, and we don't have people that want to volunteer to read, I don't really see how that's an issue. From everything that I've read about it and seen about it, the kids seem to like it, and the adults that put it on seem to like it. And I haven't heard of anyone being traumatized or hurt or anything because of it.
So here's the pushback. The pushback is simply this. So liking it, there's plenty of things that we like, right? We like, here it is. I love hip hop music, but I'm very aware of how it can be detrimental, right? So liking it cannot be the barometer. And so what happens is, for the most part, as humans, naturally, certain ages, our hormones are going to become what they are, right? And so we become aware. We have to start naturally becoming aware of our sexuality and what that might be at that time. So introduction to over-sexualizing children, because this is one thing you know about me personally. I'm against all over-sexualizing, regardless of heterosexual, homosexual, transgender. I'm against all over-sexualizing. Obviously, this is me personally, so I am consistent, and it becomes unnecessary to highlight someone's sexuality for a story hour. It becomes completely unnecessary for kids to even explore what does this mean, because prior to some of the pushes that we have now, again, I think transgender in women's sports is too far. I consider this as an example of too far too, because prior to the time we have now, people who are going to be transgender are going to do that anyway. People who are going to dress in drag are going to do that anyway. And they're able to find that out without having to have somebody get in front of them, prance in front of them at an elementary age. And the kids have to figure out, this person is dressed as a woman for what? That's not a necessary consideration. It's over sexualizing of all things story hour. I call complete BS on it.
Well, my thing is, there's a thin line between a lot of this stuff, but the same people that may agree with you would have no problem looking at a Tyler Perry movie with their children. And they'll look at those, they'll be like, oh, this is good. They'll go to church and talk about it. But when it comes to someone reading a story, then it's a problem. But if it was Tyler Perry in the same library reading as his character Medea, then people probably wouldn't have a problem with it.
That's not true. So here's the difference. We absolutely don't want Medea showing up to the elementary school. Now, what happens for individual families if they are so choosing to allow their children, because that's what allowing their family can't control their home. If they're okay with their children seeing Medea in a comedic character, which is very common. So I don't necessarily have a heartache with that being a character in a movie that I'm choosing to show my children. However, making elementary school hour, there's absolutely no purpose other than to highlight the sexuality. It's serving no other purpose than that. And I do not want my children going to school at elementary age before they're even having the hormonal issues of figuring out their own sexuality. I don't want that being part of their school discussion.
Well, I
No
think
sense.
one of the confusions is that we think this is about sexuality and drag queens
Why would you
isn't
do it?
necessary.
Why would you
Huh?
do it for elementary?
Why would you not? I mean, the thing
I
is,
just
you
explained why
take.
you wouldn't.
Why would you
Why
not?
would we be exploring sexuality for 6 year
You
olds?
you wherever you go, you take your sexuality. You don't stop being a heterosexual man when you start reading.
In the sixth
You don't
grade.
do you when you start reading stories to children. You don't stop being a heterosexual man.
So what's the drive to have drag story hour? Let's not BS
I
behind
think it's basically colorful. It's imaginative, and I think they're just basically expanding people's views
pushing,
and
trying
things.
to have the
The same
children
reason why
think
you have
about
clowns. Why would
sexuality.
you have a clown read something? Why does someone have to wear makeup
It's,
and dress up as a clown?
no, it's definitely not equivalent because a clown being comedy has nothing to do with children exploring the sexuality of who's in front of them. So
But
to have an intentional drag
neither does drag queen. Neither does drag queen.
So to have an intentional drag story to be disingenuous about the reason why they want to have this movement, that's being disingenuous. That's
Wait a
why
minute. Did you see some paperwork saying there is a movement and an agenda?
yeah, that's why it came up. That's why it's coming around. It's a push. That's why we have the term
There,
DSH.
there
Is
is
to
always somebody that says something is a push. But
so
I haven't been to the meetings. I haven't seen it. So if we
so
take
you're
it to
going
its
by
logical
but yeah,
conclusion,
it probably won't make it to Georgia, hopefully. But yeah,
I
there's a
think we've
movement.
already had it here in Georgia. They even had it in Kentucky because I read the paper up in Louisville and they had it up there.
So how do they have it if it's not a movement?
It's not a movement. It's basically just something that happens. It's probably more organic than you would like to admit.
No, it's absolutely a movement.
Someone said, "Can I read
Yeah,
the story?" Oh wow, we don't have too many adults that want to do that. Can I do it in drag? Can I do it in drag? Sure. Okay.
so what happens is story hour has been common in schools forever. They're now intentionally putting a drag person in front of these children to explore something they've never had to explore during story hour. All right,
Who
brother.
is
I
they?
agree with it. You agree with it? Well, there's actually that's why there's a name to it. There's a name to it because it's being pushed, just so you know. But anyway, we don't have to agree on it. That's what we do here. I'm just letting you know that they're not putting it in front of those children to not highlight the sexuality of that person. And that's the difference between what Story Hour has been before for what it is now. We don't have to agree on it, but that's definitely the intention, even if I'm wrong about the movement, right? So I maybe I don't know enough details to know if it's a movement, but we can't say it's being done other than to highlight that difference, because otherwise there's no reason to highlight it. It would just be done without that being part of it.